Hi everyone, this is Dan, and this is Marvel's Superheroes Secret Wars number 2. Written by Jim Shooter, pencils by Mike Zeck, inked by John Beatty, and lettering by Joe Rosen, colors by Christy Scheel, and edited by Tom DeFalco. So last we left off, our sort of gaggled team of heroes were brought together against their will and put into this essentially 1980s fighting game that we got going here. So when we open up issue number 2, we get thrown into the action. All of Marvel's superheroes have been ambushed by Marvel's supervillains, and we get a great action scene opening up. Captain America tries to rally the troops together to sort of beat back the villains. Meanwhile, we kind of jump in the middle of the action. We jump over to Dr. Doom. Who, after being repelled by the Beyonder, and also doing a little bit of Jim Shooter style exposition, he goes over to the fallen body of Galactus, who magically stands up without having to even push himself up, and Dr. Doom attempts to convince Galactus to join his side to face the Beyonder, but Galactus, being kind of like the OP supervillain that he is, kind of ignores even Dr. Doom, which leads to Dr. Doom sort of falling back to the villain fortress of Secret Wars to figure out what he needs to do next. When we go back to the action of our superheroes, they're pretty much wrapping up the villains pretty easily. We got great action team up between Cyclops and Hulk. She-Hulk proceeds to bitch slap the Enchantress, and for the most part, a lot of the villains get captured and the rest run away. Captain America sends out Storm to find food and water, and she ends up finding a fortress, and that becomes the Heroes Fortress of Secret Wars. You notice how all of this is kind of building up to make a lot of toy sets and play sets. You can see Mattel's influence in this series right away. You get a pretty great scene where Captain America kind of lays down the facts, and you get the early conflicts between the Avengers and the regular Marvel superheroes and the X-Men. In fact, this is kind of a reoccurring theme throughout Secret Wars, which is sort of the conflict between the mutants and the X-Men and the rest of the heroes. There's a lot of prejudice on both sides, and they don't particularly trust or like each other. Speaking of mutants that you can't trust, Magneto finds his own little fortress, and he comes in to sneak into the Heroes Fortress in the middle of the night. While this is going on in the middle of the night, you get some really nice conversations between a lot of the heroes. A lot of them kind of opening up, and I actually kind of like this. Even though it's not necessarily written the best, Jim Shooter tries to bring some humanity to all these characters. So you get some great go-between conversations between Spider-Man and Human Torch, She-Hulk and Wasp, and a really great conversation between Cyclops and Mr. Fantastic, with Ben Grimm listening in. While this is going on, Magneto basically sets off the alarms as he has a sneak attack on the hero's base. He ends up capturing Wasp and escaping, and a lot of the heroes note that the X-Men didn't show up to fight Magneto, and it kind of drives an even bigger stake between all the heroes and the X-Men and mutants. Really crazy plot twist that occurs in the second issue is Ben Grimm loses his power. He's normally the Thing, and in the middle of trying to fight Magneto, he loses his monster form and becomes regular Ben Grimm before the Fantastic Four were sort of created. You're left on a bit of a foreshadowing cliffhanger as the rest of the Avengers and the heroes look on and realize that that Galactus is up to something pretty crazy on this sort of created planet that they're fighting on. So overall, what do I think? I actually kind of liked the second issue more than the first. I thought it actually the action build-up was a lot better. Writing was a little better. There's still some kind of like dialogue points that are a little like they kind of fall short. And again, Jim Shooter is not Chris Claremont or Frank Miller. But I think the writing is good enough, but more importantly, which is typical of Jim Shooter, his structure is really good. And so despite all of that, you end up still really liking and getting into the action here. And it's really good how he's developing this conflict between the X-Men and the rest of the characters. This is kind of a ongoing issue throughout the Marvel Universe, which is, how do the rest of the heroes deal with the mutants, both the good mutants, the X-Men, and the bad mutants, such as Magneto. But yeah, no, really good issue. I actually like the art in this issue more than the first issue. Mainly, I think it's mainly because I just like, there's more like She-Hulk, and Mike Zeck actually draws She-Hulk pretty well. Not really a fan of Mike Zeck's Wasp, but or his Storm, but he knows how to draw She-Hulk really well. He also knows how to draw Enchantress really well too. Anyhow, let's get to the art. So this is inspired by a page where, or actually I should say a couple panels where Cyclops and Mr. Fantastic are kind of having a sort of heart-to-heart talk. And I thought it was probably the best dialogue in all of it, because it kind of shows some, despite the fact that Cyclops is a mutant and a member of the X-Men, Mr. Fantastic is more of the sort of traditional accepted heroes, it shows sort of their own humanity, that there's a lot in common with these characters, despite all the differences that are put into the Marvel Universe. And I liked it a lot and decided to do my own art inspired by it. In this case, I took sort of a view up from the platform that they're standing on as they're kind of talking and shooting the shit. I'm not really fond of the way I did the muscles in this one. I think I'm going to need to revisit this and think about how I need to do muscles later. But overall, pretty happy with it. It's a big piece, so did this all on Bristol, so it was a hell of a lot nicer to ink. But yeah, man, this is actually the first time I've actually drawn Cyclops. I just realized that. No, I did draw him in the previous Secret Wars issue, but it was such a small piece that I haven't really spent a lot of time drawing Cyclops. I forget, like, his character design is really nice and convenient. It's kind of easy to draw Cyclops. I like that a lot. Anyhow, that's the review. Let me know what you think. If you like this review, please hit the thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Hit the bell for notifications. If you got any comments about this review video or my art, leave it down below. And I will see you next time.